So, y'all look at this notebook. I've got like notes on every page of this notebook. We're going to be here for like 2 days. I'm actually not telling you that's true. 1 Peter chapter 2. We're kind of following along with our care group study, 1 Peter chapter 2. Today we're going to do chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And you know what? First, I just want to read the text. I want you to hear the text, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So put away all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and slander. Like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up into salvation, if indeed you have tasted that the Lord is good. As you come to him, a living stone rejected by men, but in the sight of God, chosen and precious, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, thank you, Cassie, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For it stands in Scripture, behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame. So the honor is for you who believe, but for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumble because they disobey the word as they were destined to do. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh which war against your soul. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. It's a really great series of verses, but there's a kind of a key word that kind of follows through the book of 1 Peter. And the word is the word suffer. In fact, the only words that occur more than the word suffer in the book are the words God and Jesus. So those are pretty important words, right? God and Jesus. But outside of that, the word suffer occurs more times than any other word in the book. That's kind of a major word that's not an and a thee or, something like that. So it occurs 17 times in the book. But when you read about that, one of the things you might do is you might think, well, suffering always relates to persecution, and those aren't always true, not in the sense of what we normally think of persecution. Some persecution could come because a king or someone in authority decided that they wanted to persecute a group of people. And that was happening in Peter's world. That was happening because of Nero and the fire in Rome and Nero's persecution. But that's not all of the suffering that happens in the world. Sometimes suffering happens for Christians because we are trying to live out a godly life in an ungodly world. And although there may have been some empire-type persecution from the Roman Empire at this time, the main source of suffering, if you read through 1 Peter, is just simply there are people who are trying to live as God's people in an ungodly world, and the ungodly world just doesn't like it. And they won't accept it, and the people are different. And because they're different, they are treated badly or treated with a sense of suffering. So there's some really important clues when you get into the text. And sometimes, we talked about this with the kids at Camp Bacon, and I want to remind you of this morning. Sometimes when you read through the text, you just look for clues. You look for little important words, and sometimes little important words mean very important things. So Peter's going to start this kind of with a question of what do you crave? If you kind of look for like a subject of this section of 1 Peter, the question is, what do you crave? Now, I'm assuming that that's still an okay word. Y'all just, I have to ask this sometimes. I know these old adults out here understand the word crave. You know what the word crave means? Okay, so what do you really desire? What do you really want? What is it you're really passionate about? What is it that just kind of controls your mind and your thoughts? For example, in the Smith household, there is a rumor. And the rumor in the Smith household is that the father of the Smith household knows where every Dairy Queen in the United States is located. And like, we can be driving down a road and it's like all of a sudden I just get that vibe. It's like there's a Dairy Queen close by. I don't know where it is, but I know it's there. And for a while, I carried the Dairy Queen app, so I know where all the Dairy Queens were. But I want to know, now why do I want to know where Dairy Queen is? I crave ice cream. I mean, that's just the way it is. I love ice cream. If you look in our freezer at the house, I don't know where Hot Babe went. She's in here somewhere. We have ice cream. I promise you, there's ice cream in the freezer at the house. I love ice cream. Now, I'm really struggling with all this diabetic stuff of trying to figure out how to balance my ice cream. But the Lord has been gracious to me because ice cream doesn't make it spike like bread. So I can give up bread as long as I can have ice cream. So thanks be to Jesus that He lets me have ice cream. But there are certain things that you just crave. There are certain things that you just have to have, that you just want. And I hope it's okay to say this in church. I hope I'm not messing anything up. Like in the morning, I got to have a kiss from Hot Babe. That's just the way it works. You got to have that that's the way you start your day. And if I were to start my day differently than that, it kind of messes my day up. So if I'm gone off somewhere, she's off traveling somewhere, and I don't get my morning kiss, it's like, hey, that's a messed up kind of day. There are things that you just crave, that you want, that you desire, that you just think you have got to have. And so when you look at your life, the question is, what is it that you crave? What is it that you just desperately want? And that's one of the things that Peter is talking about in this section of 1 Peter. So there's little clues. And so we start to read the text. And that first verse says, therefore rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. Now, that is, I'm not sure which translation that is. I think that's the NIV 1984 edition. The one I have here, although I think it's a wonderful translation. This is the English Standard Translation. And it says, so put away all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and slander. And it's got so in there, but that word therefore is a really important word. If you want to look for really important words in the text, therefore, because, those are really important words because they link two thought processes together. So what is the importance of therefore? Well, the therefore is the things that happen in chapter 1. So who is it that we are exactly? Well, we're called. We're called by God. We're purified. We're made clean and holy and righteous. We're born again of imperishable seed, which is Jesus. We're obedient children because of our calling and our new birth. We live as obedient children. So Peter's kind of summing all of that up, all of chapter 1, most of it in one word, therefore. So because of that, because of who you are, because you have this new birth in Jesus, you are a new creation, you are something special because of what God has done for you. But because of all of that stuff that happens in chapter 1, this is what you do. You rid yourselves of all malice and deceit and hypocrisy, envy, and slander. Now, there's something really interesting about that list. If you have a different translation, it may not say all malice. That's actually a word that means all evil. It's just a word for bad stuff. So does it mean all bad stuff? Well, yeah, it kind of means bad stuff. But when you look at deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander, what are those? Those are relational words. Those are words where we are interacting with one another. When you deceive somebody, or you have hypocrisy, or you have envy against someone else, or you slander someone else. So because all of those are relational words, most translations take the get rid of all bad and make that a relational word too, which is the relational word we would use malice. So the way that you would treat one another in a bad way. Stop all of that kind of stuff. And instead of that, here's the deal. You're supposed to, all right. Never mind, I'm going to take a break. All right, so hang on to that thought that I was just getting ready to give you because I put it a slide later. When you talk about getting rid of something, it's more like casting something off. It's like when you watch the videos for small group, he talks about cleaning out a junk drawer. Anybody have a junk drawer? I mean, everybody's got a junk drawer, right? Yeah, and I know this is it's a self-explanatory type of question, but what's in the junk drawer? Junk, right. And so any of you have stuff at your house that you don't need anymore? I mean, you don't need it. You have it, and you're not going to get rid of it, but you don't need it. There is stuff, I'm just going to have to, I hope I don't get in trouble for this with my wife. There is stuff in boxes under our house when we moved into that house in 2007 that has never been out of the box it was in when we moved into the house. 2007, how many years is that? That's 15 years, right? If my math is right, Mr. Math Man, is that right? Yeah. Do you think I need the stuff that's in the box? No, most likely not. Most likely not. How many of you have a garage? What's a garage look like? My garage looks like a bomb went off in it. It's one of those garages like when you're working on, has anybody ever done this? You're working on something and you got like a screwdriver in your hand and you're up underneath the car and you're working and you lay the screwdriver down and then you do something and you start to pick the screwdriver up and something has moved the screwdriver since the time that you put it down and you can't find it anywhere. And you're crawling around under the car trying to find the screwdriver that you just had in your hand. Does that happen to anybody except me? Okay, thank you very much. I knew I wasn't going crazy. I think there's some like little animal or something that moves that kind of stuff around. The point is you get stuff in your life and you have to get rid of it. And in Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews says it this way, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. Anybody know what comes right before this verse in Hebrews? Y'all know it's trivia night. But Hebrews chapter 11. All of the great people of faith. And so in chapter 12 he says, well, since you're surrounded by that great cloud of witnesses, all those people that had faith, throw off, same word, get rid of, throw off. It's the same Greek word. Throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles and run with perseverance the race marked out before you. So Hebrews 12, 1 Peter 2 are very similar. What he's asking you to do is get rid of stuff that slows you down. Sometimes we say throw off, and instead of everything that hinders, some translations, every weight. Every weight. You throw off every weight. You throw off everything that keeps you from running the way that you're supposed to run. You keep off the stuff, get rid of the stuff that's kind of dragging you down and slowing you down and keeping you from operating at your full potential. And sin, and what does he say about sin? This easily entangles, right? You know, most of us don't do sinful things because they're not fun or because we don't not enjoy them. Most of the stuff that we really struggle with is stuff that we crave, stuff that we want to do, something that we have a passion for. Now, the interesting thing is in this, then he says, like newborn babies crave pure spiritual milk so that by it may grow up in your salvation. And so when we look at that, it's okay, we get rid of this, and we crave this. The way the sentence is written, the getting rid of and the craving thing, there's only one main verb. The main verb is crave. The main verb is crave. You crave pure spiritual milk. And the other one that we translate as a main verb is just a participle. It says, while you're craving pure spiritual milk, make sure you get rid of this stuff over here that's dragging you down and holding you up. You do them at the same time. And you think, well, Greg, that's kind of a small kind of difference. Yeah, in a way, but you meet people and they say, well, as soon as I get rid of all the bad stuff, then I'm going to go for the good stuff. Right? It doesn't happen that way. You start pursuing the good stuff and it helps you cast off the bad stuff. If you're going to wait to get your life right before you decide to be a follower of Jesus, you're never going to be a follower of Jesus because you can't get your life straight without starting with Jesus, not ending with Jesus. You kind of follow that? So you're going to crave something. You're going to crave this pure spiritual milk. Now, I hope this is okay, question 2. When you think about something that's pure, doesn't have any contaminants in it, like when I think about that with milk, and you're going to go, bleh. What happens when you like grab milk out of the refrigerator that's like now, Now, Jim Lee always said you could go 4 or 5 days past date. I don't know if he was ever right. Jim Lee would look at cans and he would say, oh, yeah, that's just the date they have on a can. The real date is here. So I don't know if that was right or not. I'm just telling you what Jim Lee used to tell me. Right. But when the date on the milk jug says, like, what's today? October the 2nd, right? So if I looked at the milk jug this morning and it said October the 1st, I'm just telling you, I'm not drinking out of it. Now, you can do whatever you want, but I'm not drinking out of it. When the milk gets to the day of the milk, I am not drinking past that day. Amen. Amen. And the reason for that is if you ever do it past that date and it's too far, what do you get? Yeah, is what you get. It's not pure. It's not undefiled. And and it's not that it's just any spiritual milk, the spiritual milk, undefiled milk. And the word for spiritual here is a really interesting word because it means to have kind of a right judgment about something, to think about something clearly. It means, I'll just read, here's a definition. I thought this was really good. I didn't write this, I'm just reading it, okay? Pertaining to being genuine in the sense of being true to the real and essential nature of something. Now, it's used here in a figurative way, so we put spiritual in there, which is a great translation. I'm not arguing with the translation. I just want you to see something more than that. It's the thing that's essential. That's the very nature of the thing that you're talking about. So what is the pure spiritual milk? What is it that I'm pursuing? What is it that I'm supposed to crave? Well, it could be, somebody says, well, it's the Word of God. Oh, well, that is pure spiritual milk. It is. It's the Word of God. It is walking as Jesus walked. Can it include that? Absolutely. It's walking as Jesus walked. It's looking at the world and saying, I want to see the world through the eyes of God instead of seeing it through the eyes of man. That's pure spiritual milk. It's those things that have us anchored in the things that are truly spiritual and getting rid of all of that stuff that's sinful and drags us down and pulls us behind. And the question that Peter is asking is a really great question, and it's pretty simple. What is it that you crave? And if you're going through life and you're not really craving pure spiritual milk, you probably need to change the things that are most important to you. Now, if you go out and you crave pure spiritual milk, what does that mean for us? And what does it mean for the world that we live in? Now, remember, suffering. And the suffering has happened not necessarily because there's persecution. The suffering is happening because we're godly people living in an ungodly world, and the ungodly world doesn't want to accept godly people. And Peter says, remember who you are. Because you crave pure spiritual milk, you're a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. That is who you are. And if you look at the world and say, okay, what is it that I'm craving in the world? What you're doing is in the world, you're craving the things that help you declare the excellencies of God, because God has rescued you from all the things that have happened to you. And you're His possession. You belong to Him. You're not somebody else's. It's not like it's not like you're lined up on the fence and we're picking baseball teams and God's going to end up picking you last. He's going to pick you very, very first. Everybody gets picked at the beginning, okay? And it's not like you're the last one. It doesn't matter how that hierarchy goes. You are God's possession. You are His people. You belong to Him. And there's something interesting in all of these words. Most of them are all plural. So you're thinking, well, that's me, and it is kind of singular because I'm part of the plurality, but what Peter is really looking at is not just an individual, he's looking at a body of believers. And he's looking at a body of believers saying, look, you guys are something special. I mean, you're God's possession, and as you go out in the world, you live like you are God's possession. You live like people who proclaim His excellencies. That is what it means to crave the pure spiritual milk. So when you get to work and everybody acts this way, but you know it's an ungodly way and you act in a different way, that's proclaiming His excellency. When you have a moral choice and the whole world is saying this is the right choice, but you know morally that is not the right choice, so you make a different stand, that is proclaiming the excellency of the one who called you out of darkness into light. And at the end, the only thing, the most important thing that's going to matter is that you've been called out of darkness and you've been brought into the light. So he continues. He says, you're not a people, but now you're the people of God. There's this whole section in here, though. And I don't want to skip over it. It's like, I'm laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame. Think for a minute. Think about who he's writing to and how he's writing and what's he encouraging them to do. What happened to the cornerstone? And it's okay, you can answer in here. This is not just a lecture. What happened to the cornerstone? He was crucified and rejected and mistreated. Was he not? Yeah, he was. So the honor is for you who believe, but for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become a cornerstone and a stone of stumbling and the rock of offense, and they stumble because they disobey the word which they were destined to do. Okay, if the cornerstone, living a godly life in an ungodly world, was persecuted and even put to death, what should we expect is going to happen to us? So Jesus comes along and he says, hey, just so you know, the world's going to hate you. The world's not going to accept you. Because you're not like the world. You're not of the world. You're outside the world. He's going to talk about being strangers and aliens and passing through. And we sing all of those songs, right? And the reason we sing all of those songs is because what we expect is we should expect that we're going to be treated the same way that Jesus was treated. But you were not a people, but now you're God's people. You ever get to somebody and they ask, where are you from? Where are you from? What do they mean by that? People hear me talk and they say, if I am not in the southern part of the United States and I go somewhere else, they say, where are you from? Why do they say that? My accent. In fact, I mean, it's just a southern thing and it's just my accent and it's not a bad thing. When I say Greg, it sounds like Craig, and a lot of people will call me Craig, and that's okay. I don't mind. Brother Craig. That's exactly right. It's just my accent. It's just the way I talk. Now, should I change it? Nah, too old for that. But you look at that and people say, well, who are you? How many people in our world are trying to figure out who they are? And how many people trying to figure out who they are in our world are looking at social media and television and listening to the radio? You know how many of you are pulling up like Snapchat or what are all those things? Y'all read all those words. There's Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook. Y'all don't do Facebook. Facebook's for old people, by the way. What's some of the others? TikTok. You got all of these things going on. And you know, some people, y'all are smarter than most, so I'm giving y'all a pass of this. But most people can't look at that and figure out what's real and what's fake. So you got this person and they're all glamorous and, you know, they're standing in front of a green screen but they can make it look like they're just the most important thing in all the world. And then you're looking at that thinking, well, why can't I be like that? And then you start trying to figure out, well, what's really important in the world and what's not. And who am I? What am I like? And whatever you're like and wherever you are and whatever kind of talent you have or whatever kind of skill you have or that you don't even have, it doesn't matter. You are God's possession. And when you start thinking about the thing that's most important in life, the most important thing in life is being God's possession. Who is it that you belong to? And he said, that's who you are. You weren't a people, but now you're the people of God. You didn't have mercy, but now you've been shown mercy. Now, so you look at that from Peter's perspective as he's writing this, and he's trying to get a message to them. So here's the message. You got to put away the things that are evil and bad. What you got to crave is God. And when you want to think about craving pure spiritual milk, instead of dissecting that into a bunch of different things, just for right now, just say, what I'm craving is Jesus. I want to be like Jesus. That's what I'm going to crave. Well, if you're craving that and then you're coming into a world that rejected him, what you should expect is that you're going to be rejected. But even in being rejected, when he was rejected, the world rejected him, but he was precious to God. So whatever the world does to you, you are precious to God because you're his people and you're his creation. So when I look at this world and think, well, God, I just don't fit in. He says, well, you're aliens and strangers in the world. You're aliens and strangers, and you abstain from fleshly desires which war against your soul. And we translate that sinful desires, which is okay, but it's kind of more fleshly desires. You struggle with those things because everything in the world is trying to tell you it is the most important thing, and you have to understand it is not the most important thing. You're going to go through life and people are going to say the thing that's most important for you is climbing the career ladder and making sure that you get to this point on the career ladder. And I'm telling you, at the end, climbing the career ladder is not the most important thing. Or they'll say, you know, what you need to do is you need to have a big house. And if you have the right kind of house, then you can really be important. And I'm telling you, that is not the most important thing in the world. Or the car that you drive, or what your spouse looks like, or whatever, you know, how big your boat is, or how many boats you have, or, you know, I got a 10-car garage. Well, good for you, you know. So when you're dead, somebody's going to drive 10 cars, but then I'm going to be you, right? So you go through all of that, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is it in life that's most important? And he says, look, what you have to remember is you're just an alien and a stranger. You're not here long. Now, if you're sitting on this side of the auditorium toward the front, you're like I'm just going to pick on somebody. Joshua Douglas, how old are you? 14. Joshua Douglas is 14. Woo, 2 more years you'll be driving and I'll be off the road. 14. Now, I'm just picking on people, and it's okay. And I'm just asking, David, can you remember 14? A little bit. A little bit. And you know, when you're 14 and you think, man, they're only 10. Whew, that's awful young. And age looks so wide apart when you're young like that. Well, they're only in, what grade are you in, Joshua? 9th grade. So Joshua looked down on a 6th grader and saying, man, a 6th grader, you know, sure is young. And to a 6th grader, Joshua looks like God. He just does. Because he's so much smarter. And he knows so much. And then Joshua is thinking, 14, man, I'm 14. Man, Joshua, you can't even fathom being twice your age, hardly, can you? One day, no, Joshua just can't fathom it. One day you'll be 28, Joshua. Can you fathom that? It seems like forever, doesn't it? Man, I would, 28, I'm like twice that, right? Where did that, what happened with that? And you're looking at life and you're thinking, man, it's just time and experience and and it's not. It's not. I'm just passing through the world. That's all I'm doing. I'm here for just a short period of time. In the length of my existence, it's not even a scratch on it. If a man is going to, or I'm using man generically, man and women, okay, don't y'all get all burned up on me. But if you're going to live forever, forever is forever, right? Can you even get a concept of forever in your head? Because I can't get a concept of forever in my head. I've never experienced a forever. But I'm going to live forever. So if I'm rescued by God and I pursue Jesus and I understand that the world's not going to like me because the world didn't like Jesus, and then I'm getting ready to go out into this world and be this ambassador for a God who called me because I belong to Him, what I see in this world is just a place. I'm an alien. I'm a stranger. I'm here for a short period of time. It's not that things in the world aren't important. Yes, some things are greatly important. Is family important? Yes. Yes, it's important. Is showing love to people important? Absolutely. So you live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day He visits us. And boy, you talk about a challenge, that's the 1 Peter challenge. I'm going to live such a good life that even those that accuse me of doing wrong or abuse me or mistreat me or don't understand me or make fun of me, they will know. They will see the good deeds and glorify God on the day that he visits us. And that's the challenge as we go out in the world. So 1 Peter 2, 1 through 12 is, you read through that and you're thinking, okay, what is that challenge? That challenge is to be a follower of God in such a way that you reflect the nature of God in the world. And you don't give up on that. And you don't lose sight of it. And you hold on to it. But it's for those who have faith in Jesus. It's those who've accepted who Jesus is, who have given their life to him, who have decided that they are going to follow him, whatever comes along in life, that they are going to be faithful to him, and they are going to give their lives to him and honor him with everything that they do, that the thing that they are going to crave more than anything else in all the world is Jesus, because when we crave Jesus, our craving is even greater than the world. And today, we honor him, and tomorrow we will honor him, and the next day we will honor him, and the day after that, and the day after that, and for an eternity. So the question I would ask you is, does that kind of reflect your lifestyle? Is that who you are? Or have you even made that first step of becoming a believer in Jesus? Is that where you need to start? And if you need to start that journey, don't start it tomorrow. Start it today. And if you need to respond, we're going to ask you to do that while we stand and